A major online tournament just happened. So let's talk about it. Let's see what we can learn about it, what teams we can pick up from this VR February Challenge number 1. It is important to note that 2 major tours happened over this weekend. This Victory Road tournament and also Mexico Regional. Unfortunately, teams are not up for said regional. Otherwise, you would already know that I'd be yapping about that. But I think the most important thing is I always think that you can learn a lot about the context of a meta game or like looking for new teams by looking at tournament results, especially the major ones like the online tournament, the Victory Road tours, regionals, and just show you how the meta progresses. And if you're looking for a new team again, this might be the perfect place to find that, right? So without further ado, let's talk about the Victory Road February Challenge number 1. Also, I'll be talking a little bit about the Global Challenge too and see if some things that we can learn, because our champion here is Francesco Piopero, currently a 3-time Victory Road champion. They take it extremely serious. I think one of the reasons why I'd even talk about an online tournament is that the VR Tour is one of the few tours we get a lot of international competition. I'm talking Europe, Japan, honestly all of Asia, and then obviously you still get some NA people. It's a pretty bad time zone for NA players, but it's important if you're going to EUIC, you're going to a future event, follow these tournaments, right? So let's talk about it. Like I said, Francesco won. It's funny because this tweet, that's me in the DMs, because like, you know, I saw that he did really good with calyrex-ice, so I was like, oh well, let me ask a little bit about it. And then he's like, and I quote, he says, "I feel so good playing any restricted, so I'm just gonna keep playing," right? And he brought Terapagos to the tournament, right? And let's talk about this, right? You might see like this Heatran like coming out of nowhere. And like I said, everywhere has its roots, right? Every thing can be traced back to a former tournament. So I'm going to bring up back to San Antonio, and we'll notice that there was a Heatran group. This Heatran group, there's 2 players that ended up going 8-3. We actually see Ismail Hassan. This is the kind of exact same 6, right? Like these teams don't just appear out of thin air. And this was a top 64 team. I'm telling you guys, if you guys want to like do your best at these regionals, at these bigger tournaments, even at your local scene, or even just online on Showdown or Battle Stadium, using looking through these results and like seeing things and like not just judging them is so important, and it's something even I like didn't really talk about on my last meta breakdown. But this Heatran came out of nowhere with Zoom Lens, and is essentially, if you don't know, Zoom Lens, if you're going second, if you're moving last on your target, you get like a 20% accuracy boost, which is way higher than Wide Lens, making like Magma Storm like basically near 100. I don't know the math. Someone put the math below. Just know it's really good. This Pokemon is a 1-mon Zamazenta counter machine. You beat Fluttermane, you beat the Chi-Yu, you all the Chi-Yu, you beat the Zama, and you one-shot Chimpel through Sash because Magma Storm deals chip after hitting. Extremely cool. And we see Francesco's take on it, right? All he did was add Stealth Rock and Citrus Berry. He decided, I'm okay with missing. I want an item that does stuff. Terra Fairy also to hedge into that matchup that we just talked about, Zamazenta. And finally, just a lot of like just really strong mons. Got to see Ogre Rock here. Got to see this Screamtail here. Just like I said, this is going to be a common trend, right? Every like past tournaments dictates current tournaments. If we go to the VR challenge, you'll notice that there's a lot of Miraidon. There's a lot of Japanese players using the Arubega version, which is like very similar to the World Champion version. And why? Like we all watched, we watched San Antonio. Where was Miraidon? More like Frauridon, right? And that's the context of the meta, right? We're seeing a lot more of these like calyrex-ice teams. We're seeing Kyogre still do really well. We're seeing Zama start doing really well. And obviously I think Zama still has a really, really playable matchup. But when we start seeing these teams do well, I think that's where it's important to note that Miraidon is going to come, right? Miraidon is going to come to play. Obviously, the Hodge brothers running their version. They've been running both of them. Got top seven, second, and top 32, 17th place. So very very strong team, very like good. I think what like separates this right apart, I think, is like the Ursaluna and obviously the Sneasler, not running Dire Claw. Like if you are a Reg H player, have nightmares. This is not a Dire Claw version. It's made to beat Rillaboom. Very good, very cool, very swag. I like this team a lot. If there's anything I really have to add about this team, not really. I think that this is like a cool version, and I think that like one thing I have said since San Antonio is I want to see Miraidon players innovate. I want to see Miraidon players do a little bit more, and we will eventually have to see that. Right now, they're still doing a lot of the same versions. Yuki using the Dozo version that got top 8 at Worlds, but it's cool to note that these versions still do really good. There was also, obviously, I cannot skip the Iron Shreds, right? A lot again, like I think that like we're seeing the Miraidon core being like you want your hands, you want your Fari, like you want your Miraidon. It's just such a good core, especially into things like Kyogre, right? Which is going to be extremely popular if you're going to UIC. We're going to talk about the usage rates of things in a little bit, but very cool to know. Rocky Helmet Ensign is cool. The reason why people are using Rocky Helmet Ensign is you tend to want to put Rocky Helmet on Pokemon that Ensign wants, that Urshifu wants to target. So if Urshifu ever targets you, they're taking massive amounts of damage. And if you Terra Ghost, you're just living that. Oop, that's my phone. Let me put that. So really, really cool stuff to see. CB Iron Tread, you can assume it's a speed boosting. Steel Roller is a one-time nuke using your terrain. Very cool. Just a really cool Pokemon. I think its typing is really good. It's a good anti-Mirrormon. Being able to hit Miraidon on the ground side and on the electric side and on the Terra Fairy side. Very cool to see that, right? Moving on with some other interesting teams. We are noticing, like I said, the Terapagoses were doing good. We talked about the context of why you have to like really, really think about past tournaments, right? And speaking of past tournaments, right, Kyogre is still here. Kyogre is still here to show. I think another result I wanted to show, because you can find results for all to see, right? This team over here is currently one of the number one teams in Regulation G. As you can see, they topped the Regulation G ladder. They're currently sitting really high on the best of one ladder in Battle Spot, and this is their team, right? It's very similar to the Oliver Escalon team, except they have Chien Pao, which is going to actually extend the range of your physical attackers, and also help deal with Miraidon, right? It's a team that struggles with Miraidon. And when we're looking at the like February challenge teams, right, we noticed that both of the ones in top 8 actually have this Chien Pao tech, right? And I can't stress that like it's a really good time to be playing this. This one was Scarf, this one was just like Mystic Water, but Chien Pao really helps with a lot of different matchups. Ice Spinner's cool. So if you are someone that's been building with Ogre and you're like, man, I would love to like innovate on like Oliver's current team, right? The current Calm Mind Kyogre stuff, or even just any Kyogre stuff. Rezu has you covered, right? This was a really cool, and we're seeing it on other players coming to the same ideas. I think VGC players are really smart, and when they have answers, they're going to come to like figuring out the conclusions. I think another cool part about this team is the Ursaluna Amoonguss Fari mode. You can assume that this Ursaluna is turbo, meaning it's going to be max speed, whether it's adamant or jolly. You can make that decision for yourself. But I really, really like that you can play this very fast Kyogre Farigiraf mode. You can start helping hand water spouting, and you go into Trick Room with this Ursaluna Amoonguss, and it's just so much to deal with. Very good team. I really like what they were cooking. And like I said, there's so many different Kyogre versions, right? And like I said, there's always benefit in looking beyond just the X2s, right? We can see even like There was quite a few more Kyogres down here. And I know that Pangi also ended up 6-3 using their regional team, or like mostly their regional team. Never Stop Shouting version 2.3. So going to be there eventually the EUIC team, but it's very important to note that Kyogre can be played in so many different ways. We're seeing Calm Mind versions, we're seeing Scarf versions, we're seeing Specs versions. These two are Calm Mind versions, right? It's really cool. And obviously, let's talk a little bit about calyrex-ice, right? Because calyrex-ice just won, but we're not really seeing it much here, right? I have to stress that a lot of the calyrex-ice players are grinders that don't really play online, so I wouldn't take calyrex-ice placements with a grain of sand. Like, I wouldn't look at this tournament and be like, I can ignore calyrex-ice, right? Like, that's good. No. Calyrex-ice, you should still have a matchup. I mean, if you want to ignore it and lose to it, but please have a matchup. This is a very cool team. I really like a lot of the pieces presented. Fari in Cornerstone are really, really good. Regieleki providing that electric ice ground with Lando. And also this team is just in general very fast. So there's a lot of things to like about this team. I really like this like normal Urshifu. Again, you still have to beat Calyrex Shadow. Calyrex Shadow is the most popular mon in these online tournaments. If you're going to a European tournament, it's probably going to be the most popular mon at a European tournament. So very, very cool to see. Other than that, there's nothing too crazy. There's like kind of showing that everything can work, right? Zamazenta not having the most insane performance because you look at the top 8, you don't see it. But here we see that Maddie got 8-1, and this is a very strong Italian player using another version of Zama, right? I think that like you need to start taking inspiration not just from teams that win all the time, right? But teams that teams that also are just around, right? Like we see the guy that won this event. If there's the lesson I can take is that there is always stuff that you can take from that are not necessarily at the top, like scrolling down, right? I think this is a very strong team. I think that this Pelipper is very smart. I think that like if you are currently if you're currently a player looking for a kind of brain is frying. Look, it's like 10:30 here. I woke up and I was like, I need to lock in. But if you're like kind of lost on where to take Zamazenta, I think that Maddie presents a very, very good stance using double wide guard. Note the Behemoth Bash. This might be optimal now, right? A lot of players are opting Behemoth Bash because there's a lot of heavy guys that Heavy Slam is not hitting. Especially a lot of Terra Fairy guys that Heavy Slam is not hitting, that Behemoth Bash can and will hit. I love the Terra Dark. This is anti Calyrex Shadow technology. And again, we're seeing this Chien-Pao just being really, really good. This team is like so well-rounded. If you're looking at like this, I think it's good. I think Pelipper Urshifu is really, really freaking broken right now. That's my expert take on that. God, it's really, really broken. Other than that, Calyrex Shadow still yet to see like an insane amount of change or like how they'll do this. I know Marco Fierro, one of the best players in the world, one of the best Calyrex Shadow players in the world, is like, man, testing Calyrex Shadow is so hard. And it's funny because this team is just Marco Fierro's Worlds team. And it's still performing extremely well. And it's just the same thing that we've seen like pretty much all the time. So not too much to talk about there. I think the most interesting Miraidon team tech was this Galastria. And again, I've seen these games before, right? We have seen this Galastria. I don't think it was this tournament. I think it might have been Birmingham. We have like seen very similar things to it, right? And like obviously it was this goofy team also did it. It was very annoying. But like genuinely, I think that this team is very unique. There's a few things I want to talk about in regard to it because I think that If I go find it, I lost it. Don't worry, we're finding it again. There are a few things I want to talk about. I think that you playing a physical restricted, I don't think that you are necessarily locked into having to choose Clear Amulet. I brought Never Melt Ice at Worlds. Hirofumi brought Never Melt Ice at Worlds. Calyrex. Here we see Miraidon with the Salt Vest, right? We saw the one that got top 4 at San Antonio. Had scales loaded dice, right? Yes. So what I'm saying is that you are allowed to experiment with these items, and if you're someone that's been looking to experiment with your physical restricted item, take this as a sign, right? I think that this meta is really cool. EUIC is in 2 weeks. Hopefully we get a little bit of an update to Merida so I can talk about this. I know that Zamazenta made finals. I don't remember what Daniel was using. Maybe if I click on their Twitter, they'll have something for us. Oh, yeah, we have something. It was the Dozo Miraidon team that got top 8 at Worlds that we just talked a little bit about, right? This is very impressive, right? I think that's just like, you can't sleep on Dozo as well. Like, I think that, like, one thing I'm gonna say is a lot of the world, this is still Regulation G. Regulation Worlds was the peak of Regulation G, or the pinnacle at least. Those teams are still really freaking good. Outside of that, this has been a yap session by me. I just wanted to yap, right? So I yapped. And I'm going to EUIC, so I have not really been focused on YouTube too much, but I still wanted to give you guys something, even if weekly for now. I do stream a lot. I'm still streaming a lot. Obviously, I'm streaming slightly less. I stream every day of January. If you have questions, I'll probably be reviewing this again, probably sometime today or tomorrow on my Twitch, twitch.tv/soulserve. Yeah. Who? The Merida Regional Championship teams are up. We kind of talked a little bit about the first one, right? But I had no idea that we were entering Zama land, right? We see 3 different Zamazenta teams, and I feel like they all warrant different amounts of talking about. First of all, shout out to Marcus Dion, really strong player, really amazing season this year. Kind of using like the MDB Mikael version, except they're using Dark Urshifu as the goggles user, which is a little bit different. We're also noticing something which I should have mentioned, is that a lot of Flutter mains are dropping Protect to get all the tech moves in, right? This one using Moonblast, Icy Wind, Taunt, Thunderwave. Really cool set. Love to see it. Love this Urshifu also running Taunt, because the more taunts the merrier, right? These 2 Pokemon cover different aspects of the format, so use the one that fits your team the most, right? Moving forward, we also see Hams kind of also just using a like very similar to like MDB mold, except the safety goggles user is Ditto this time with Terapagos. Again, we're seeing the Flutter main with 4 moves, no Protect. Let's talk a little bit about this Ditto, because you might have questions of what is this. First of all, a Terapagos Ditto means it's going to be very good into opposing Zamazentas. That's right, you can Terra into an opposing Zamazenta, get their plus defense boost, and you have 2 Zamazentas. That's too many. Other than that, some other things that are kind of like really good here is this. We noticed that actually I think that we're both ran Ice Spinner, because they're not running terrain. So like really cool to see from both of these players. And pretty good stuff. Like I said, this Ditto is really cool. It's also good into calyrex-ice, as you were able to take a calyrex-ice and then dodge their Mungus and then just beat them with their own ice. It's kind of crazy. But moving forward, we also see another version of Zamazenta, something actually we haven't seen, which is Zamazenta Hyper Offense. I got asked about this when I streamed yesterday, and they were like, why is there no Chien-Pao? Because Chien-Pao, this team is more focused around the offense that you're producing with Fluttermane, Raging Bolt, and Chiyu, especially with Sunny Day, and Zamazenta just happens to be there along for the ride, having to be one of the really good partners with Wide Guard, right? So defensive backbone. Every hyper offense team wants a defensive backbone. This is one of those. The Fergraph with Imprison and Expanding Force means that it's going into hard trickery matchups, and it's going to get so much value. Foul Play is amazing into calyrex-ice. So like really cool team to see. Glad to see a hyper offense team with Zama, which like everyone's like, Zama's boring. I want to play like this bulky, like I don't want to play this bulky style, like blah 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 blah. No, this guy, Marco Antonio Rodriguez Garcia, swag. Love this team. Other than that, I think that like a lot of this meta is like still a lot of things that we've seen. Like Riley came using the Riley team. Paul Ruiz, former world champion, showing a really cool way to play Chestnut. Kelly, I love this stuff. I think that Chestnut, like body defense, iron defense, body defense, body press, iron defense. We are seeing that on random mons. We've seen that on a Cobalion, we've seen that on a Glastrier, and now we're seeing it on a Chestnut. What separates Chestnut that has Wide Guard and Feint. Very unique moves. Honestly, one of the coolest teams I've seen coming out of this. We're also noticing a Terra Fairy, Calyrex Shadow, which, you know, it's hard to go choose a Terra that isn't normal or dark when you're expecting to play against so many Calyrex Shadows. Like Source here in Mexico, it looks like Calyrex Shadow wasn't the top dog, so switching off to a more defensive Terra is optimal in this type of situation, and it paid off dividends. I love this team, love what it's doing. I like the Whimsicott that supports it, makes it even bulkier on the special side. Really, really cool stuff. Like everything about this team. And like I said, other than that, the results were pretty fine. The top 16 is pretty cool to look at. Lots of really cool and unique teams. But a lot of them do come from tournaments in the past, right? And like this is like the point of like looking, like the team that won was literally the tournament in the past. This will be the official conclusion of this video. I had to give a 5-minute yapologue because the thumbnail is being made. I suck at thumbnails. Eugen is had something, so that's what's gonna happen. But yeah, I'm going to EUIC myself, which is why I've been like slow on uploads and stuff, but excited for EUIC, truly. All right, bye bye.